Okay, Classroom Elite, Season 2, Episode 10. We have another content. Your boy is back with it. I didn't cover last volume. Your boy was taking a break. If you guys see my update video, go check that out. But we're here. Volume 7 has finally started, and it was off to a decent start. I'm going to say a decent start. We obviously started the episode with the Koji group, what was formed last episode, and I think last episode I didn't get to say it in a review. I thought it was the best episode of the series so far. Just everything was hitting. You know, Lurch was on their top game. This episode was a little bit more slightly down than that, maybe 0.5 or a whole 1 score down, but it wasn't bad. It was just decent. I'll talk about why it's decent. So like I said, we started the episode with the Koji group, and then we moved on. We got to find about UN stalking the group in that. And that was interesting, obviously, like, it's really cool to see whatever's happening over there. Even the Kyo Papa stuff, what we'll get into a little in a second, at least. The one thing I was missing from the episode is that it didn't have that tense atmosphere. Like, you felt some tense stuff here and there, but for the most part, it was like, okay, cool. It wasn't as intimidating like his dad, first of all, and it wasn't like any, for me at least, I didn't feel any tense atmosphere. It just happened, I guess. And I felt the tense atmosphere when it's like, when they showcase a character like Yuen. But when it came to his dad or like some other stuff, it didn't really showcase what I was expecting. It could have been handled a lot better. And that's just the honest opinion there. As I'm not hating on the episode. It's just one thing it could have done better as their delivery. As for the cut content, there wasn't anything huge cut in my opinion. Actually, never mind. Yeah, we do have to talk about something though. We'll get into the cut stuff, obviously. So obviously we start off with a prologue from Yuen. We get a monologue from Yuen, and he's talking about fear and joy. Those are two sides of the same coin. He says the world is ruled by violence. Your status in this world is determined by your capacity for violence. And Yuen sort of talking about, you know, how some of his life's been and how fear and joy are two sides of the same coin. Cool from Yuen. We get to find out a little bit more of his character, and he says the real elite is a person whose capacity for violence is unparalleled and a human being who never feels fear. Within every fallen enemy, every day started to grow boring for me, because in the end, there's not a single person capable of beating me. If there's something that could finally beat me, that can only be described as death. So Yuen's pretty much saying, no one is on my level, bro. No one is on my level. And I'm getting bored a little bit. Like, all these people I'm beating, but none of them are even standing up to me. I want a little bit of something. And he's saying no one can do this besides from, well, death. Which is kind of wild. You see how big Yuen's ego sort of is, because he's never been beat. Then we have the Koji, a group talk, and they're sort of talking about more of their hobbies. That's the stuff what was cut. They're talking about each one another. ItzAzuSensei takes the pictures, then we're talking about clubs, and we're just finding out more about everybody within this group, which is actually really cool. You know, expand on their characters and makes it really seem like a friend group. They talk about how they were sort of confronted in the last episode, you know, by Yuen's type of thing. And even Kiyotaka says he can't directly talk to him, but can almost hear Yuen's fearless laughter saying, I'll hunt you down, which is really cool. He knows Yuen is tailing him. We could see the classy people are on our ass, you know, watching us almost. It's kind of weird, bro. And Kiyotaka didn't realize something is going on. He even realized that Yuen is, you know, pretty much narrowed down his target to, oh, maybe just him. And he says the one person who holds that decisive thing is obviously K. And we saw the end of last episode that Yuen is actually trying to target K, which will hold, you know, a really big part within this arc. Well, a lot of anime onlys will see how it sort of plays out, and I really can't wait for it. They dive more into Yuen and sort of like just want to understand what he's doing. You know, they talk about the island exam, just everything, what's going on. So it's almost like an anime. They didn't really like show how the group was concerned about Yuen, but everybody really knows Yuen's up to something within the class, and it's pretty much obvious at this point. This pretty much ended with Ida sort of asking if Kiyotaka's doing anything for Christmas, and Haruka obviously teasing her. What I do like, a really dope scene over here. I guess we really just missed out on expanding the characters and us going into more of the Yuen topic, which we still can get later, but I don't think we're gonna get it. But it's not too big. Kiyotaka obviously made the excuse he's gonna go to the toilet, and he noticed the Class A girl who is Kamado, who Kei did say was talking to Kiyotaka. So interesting stuff here. I actually forgot at the time that he actually confronted Kamado about it. He went up to Kamado, and this sort of links in with it's a problem here. This is a really big problem, because Kiyotaka knew about Sakanagi at this point. But the problem is the volume 5 content sort of got cut. So that whole conversation with Sakanagi, which I did tell you guys, it got cut, and a lot of people were coping, saying, no, it's going to be from the last 2 episodes. And it wasn't. It wasn't. It's still going to be the end of the series, but that just sounds really dumb to do, especially with the White Room being mentioned now. He went to Kamado, and I don't know if I should mention this, so I'll mention it briefly just in case something happens like that. And he sort of talks about, hey, I'll report your misdoings to Sakanagi, like you're watching me, stuff like that, pretty much. Which was really weird. He says, feel free to tell me anytime, I won't speak out, and I won't report back to Sakanagi. In exchange for that, you won't tell anyone other than Sakanagi about me. Probably a little bit worried about what Yuen's trying to do. But for the most part, I'm surprised it was cut, but obviously since we didn't have the Sakinagi talk, it's pretty much bound, right? It's bound to happen. Next, we have the scene with Sudo coming into the class saying, you know, UN's men were sort of trying to, or Class C's men were trying to, you know, start an argument. But in the light novel, he was pissed off. He even, like, stated he was sort of furious, and you could tell he's furious. And he started speaking to Horikta. Horikta didn't really talk to him properly at first. When anime, I guess he was more chilled out. So I don't know if they're trying to show a thing, whether they're saying, oh, Sudo is maturing. But I guess, I don't know, they just don't want to show him pissed off for some weird type of ting. We still have the conversation with Horikta and Kiyotaka where she sort of mentioned, you know, he's been improving. He's a well-adjusted person. His manner of speech is still a little bit rough, but it's almost like he's about to take the next step. Diving into more of the conversation with Horikta and Kiyotaka, they sort of talk about how the UN is sort of not looking for Horikta, but he's looking for Kiyotaka. And they sort of go back and forth to where even Horikta also, you still participating in those group chats, you know, or like the one talking about the Ai and Koji group is what she's really trying to say. She says it's not sort of useful, and Kiyotaka says, I'm not thinking about how useful it is, but I'm very comfortable with being with him. It's kind of wholesome. You get to see, like, he's really just happy. He's happy with these people. Well, not maybe might not be happy, but he's comfortable with them, and he likes to hang out with them. So that's really dope from Kiyotaka. We didn't get to see that from him before. Then we obviously go to the part where Kiyotaka's in the library, and he meets up with Shina Hiyori. And Hiyori is amazing. Her voice actress was really great. The scene was pretty much what I imagined. Obviously, some bits are left out where they talk about more of the books and stuff. But for the most part, I actually really did enjoy this scene. But actually, no, man. I actually was wrong about one bit. There was a bit cut out, and that's when they went to go eat lunch together. And I'm just thinking, like, wait, why was that cut out for a second? I guess it's more of a time type of thing. They went to go sort of eat lunch, and Kiyotaka figured out this is Hiyori's first time. She was, like, looking at the little kid at a candy store, just thinking what to eat. This is her first time going to the cafeteria. They sort of had lunch, and they sort of talked a little bit more about books, and he already sort of mentioned before this saying she was only doing this stuff because of the UN, but she doesn't like this sort of conflict type of thing at all. He already gave Kiyotaka some books, and I guess that was the end of lunch break, which was a really nice conversation. I hope we do get to see more of Hiyori, or maybe they'll show it next episode, just because of, like, the thing with Kiyotaka's dad was sort of muddled up, I guess, so I can't really say what direction they're going in, if they're cutting stuff or they're just rearranging. It's really hard to tell, so sometimes I have to mention shit for next week after. We have another conversation with Ai and Koji group, but just because of the Kiyotaka's dad conversation, I'm not going to mention this, but this is where they are sort of talking about how Class C is sort of stalking them, and they're talking about a mastermind, and I actually bring up the idea that Kiyotaka could be the mastermind of Class D, just because, you know, he's really calm, calculated, and, you know, he could just be the mastermind, which is actually really smart. Kiyotaka obviously denies this, but they were right on the money, bro. They were right on the money. Sato asked Kiyotaka as well if he was busy today, and he says, yeah, not today, bro. It's sort of bad time. Poor Sato, you know, she's still trying to get her man, but Shabashira interrupted this saying, hey, yo, we need to go somewhere, Kiyotaka. We need to go somewhere, right? And that's towards Kiyotaka's dad, obviously. And even Shabashira, even Shabashira had like doesn't really show emotion like it said, had a very vulnerable expression on her face. You know, she was a little bit worried about something. And she says she doesn't have the right to refuse, but it's an extremely urgent matter. So, like, she's saying, yo, you can't get out of this conversation. They arrived at the place, and it was actually the headmaster in there saying, headmaster, I brought in Ai and Koji, Kiyotaka-kun. And Kiyotaka's thinking, headmaster, huh? Why would I need to interact with a headmaster? He said, please enter. And he said a man in his 60s sat on the sofa. He's seen him several times, both for the entrance ceremony and the end of the semester. But the one besides him was another man. That man being Kiyotaka's father, obviously. And he was sat in a chair. Obviously, like, it was only them two in the room. So I guess the headmaster was sort of cut out in a weird way. I don't know why. Then they obviously talk about Matsuo. But, like, this whole conversation was sort of a mess. Like, it was really, really long. One thing I can really say, because to me... Okay, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I'll tell you guys to go to my Volume 7 video. I actually forgot I did a whole Volume 7 explain. So if you want to get this part and what was really cut... I'll cover it briefly here, but I covered literally the whole volume on my channel, Volume 7 Explained. It was one of my first videos on COTE, so go watch that, go watch this bit, because some of the bits are really cool. They sort of talk about the White Room, and they talk about how Kiyotaka pretty much killed the dude. That being Matsuo, the guy who sort of told him about the school and got him to this place he is now. And that's actually really cool. But the way they did it in the light novel is like they made you feel bad. They made you have this tense atmosphere. We got a long, long story. And he's saying that, oh, his son must hate you right now. You killed his father. I can't even imagine what you're going to do. And Kiyotaka's dad has so much power in the outside world, what we figured out, that pretty much whatever job his son tried to get, he couldn't do anything. And what happened with the son is that when Kiyotaka left, he tried to go into a school. He got kicked out. Tried to go into a school. He got kicked out and tried to get a job. And he's like losing his job. Like, this guy can't do anything anymore just because Kiyotaka left. And Kiyotaka's dad showing him, hey, yo, if you mess with me in the outside world, you can't escape me. I have this much power. And because of this, the dad pretty much killed himself. And wow, He's saying, Kiyotaka, this is your fault. This kid must hate you. Everybody must hate you. So just drop out of the school and he might forgive you. Like, stuff like that. It's like, wow, this is really, makes you feel sick. Makes you really feel sick. And you just feel the tense atmosphere, which I'm upset that the thing you didn't cover. But go check my Volume 7 video out and you'll get the full understanding of what really happened in this conversation. Sakinagi walked in and they sort of talked a lot more, I guess, too, which I will say. Also, go check out my video. And that pretty much also went the same. It's just like him saying we used to know each other. And he says, I can promise you that I will not give him the special treatment just because he's your son, Sensei. So it's not like he's giving him special treatment. He's just trying to say, yo, I'm going to keep him here. He doesn't have to leave the school if he doesn't want to. The last words were a little bit different. He says, if you call yourself a parent, why not visit the school a couple of times? Kiyotaka's dad said, a place like this once is more than enough. So it was a little bit weird anime. He pretty much said like, this time I'll allow it or something like that. Like almost like he's going to come back. But he says, hey, yo, I'm going to only visit this place once, and he left. And it's not like a respect type of thing. I don't know why he even says, maybe he left out of respect out of me. It's like, no, boy, this guy left because he can't do anything. He has no power in the school. And this was also mentioned that Kiyotaka says, I know you have no power in the school. Usually you have 2 henchmen behind you, sort of protecting you. And they're not here right now. You know what that means? It means you have no power in the school. They weren't allowed in. Only you were allowed in. So wild shit going on. They talk about Arisu, but sort of this conversation's also a mess right now because of the Volume 5 content being cut out. And that's pretty much most of it. We have the talk with Kei Arthur, and that's actually a really nice conversation. I really love the way they handled it. But before that, obviously, Kiyotaka goes outside the Chabashira, and he says, bro, I know you've been lying. I know you've been lying. And this sort of also gets more tense. There's sort of like a cold atmosphere over here. And Chabashira's worried. She wants to get to Class A, but she can't do anything at all. Then we had the Kei talk, and that was, like I said, really good. I really did like the conversation they sort of had. Kiyotaka mentioned he's going to lay low for now, and he said he wanted to apologize to Kei. And Kei says, so we're finally going to stop doing this and I'll be free. And he says, yes, that's how it is. This will be the last time I contact you. And it said, Kiyotaka said this really clear, but Kei was still like, eh? She gave a delayed response. Then she said, I didn't catch this. He said, this will be the last time I will contact you. And he sort of mentioned, yo, I'm sorry, but this is what you want pretty much, right? And she says, why are you saying this all of a sudden? He says, I'll still protect you. But Kei doesn't like this. She says it's too cold even for him. And Kiyotaka says, this isn't cold or anything about it. It's just the extent of our relationship. And he mentions that he protected Mana Bay from the group. It's not like they would have got to... It's not like they wouldn't have known each other because of this. And he mentioned, oh, you hate being used by me. Kei's just like, yeah, I guess. And he says, we shouldn't drag this out any longer. And pretty much says, I'm going to end the call. She says, see you. And Kei's just like, ah. And this is like, wow. This is damn. This is pain. This is actual pain. Kiyotaka mentions he no longer cares about Horikita, Karuizawa, UN, or Sakinagi. He will no longer actively participate in exams anymore too. If there's a problem, what's not his, but if there are problems what are his and cooperators are still necessary, then he will, I guess. So Kiyotaka's pretty much done with everything. Great episode. I really like the way they handled that scene, but like I said, some delivery, especially on the Kiyotaka's father scene. I'm trying to get used to doing these type of content videos again. I can't remember the old style I used to go for. It's been like 4 weeks. But for the most part, it was good. Like, I really did enjoy this episode. Go check out my Volume 7 full explained video. You guys, that's almost like 2 hours long. You get to see the whole thing, whatever is cut. Just watch it episode by episode. I think this will end around like the 30-minute mark of it, but it's a long-ass thing. So if anything is cut, I will do the cut content videos. But also, I feel like that's the best bet because I go through everything in detail in that video. That's about it. Follow my Twitch down below. We're streaming a lot on Twitch, by the way, now. Like, I do love... I think I've got a little bit of a love for streaming, playing games. Genshin is what I'm getting into. Also, checking out manga sometimes and watching some anime every other day of the week. We're going to probably stream on Tuesday, maybe tonight. Oh, no, let's see. Dope. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about the episode. Like, what would y'all rate out of 10? And I'll see you next time. Sensei, out.